Welcome back to the ruch YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to learn how to make this beautiful open slit sleeve. It has like a drape on the hem, you can see, and then it's also opened on the side area. It's a very beautiful sleeve, as you can see, and it's very simple to make. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to make this sleeve, you can see I already have my fabric. I'm cutting directly on my fabric. So depending on how long you want it to be, the fabric that I have here measures about 13 inches, okay, including seam allowance in length, and then on fold I have around 11 inches like this. So the first thing you need to do is to mark out your armhole on the sleeve. So here I'm marking my calf height, and then I'm going to go ahead and create an armhole curve. You can use your free hand for this, or you can just use your, but let me just use my free hand. Okay, so this is me just creating a curve, an armhole curve. So when you are marking the width like this, remember I said I have 11 inches on the center point of the sleeve. We are going to sew it, so you have to factor like half an inch allowance at this point to sew, so that you can have enough allowance. If you need 1 inch to sew, you factor the 1 inch as well, then you add your seam allowance for the side to it as well. Okay, so after cutting it out, if you notice, this is the hem of the sleeve. I'm not going to slim fit the hem of the sleeve because of the nature of the sleeve. Remember, we are still going to ruffle it up, and you don't want it too tight so that the hand can go through it. So I'm just going to leave it at the same measurements that I have on the upper part. So now I'm cutting out the armhole area of my sleeve, and this is what I have. So now after cutting out the armhole area, you can see now that it looks like a sleeve. The next thing I'm going to do is to divide it, like separate the sleeve into two. Remember I said it's going to have a seam at the center here. Okay, so after separating it into two, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine, and then I'll start to sew. So the first seam that I'm going to have is going to be from the upper part here. I'm trying to trim it so that I have the same thing. So the first seam I'm going to have is going to be from the upper part here. So you can measure like 1 inch. You use half an inch to sew it, and then you still have 1 inch left. So here I'm going to sew and stop here. Okay, so from there I'm going to measure for my opening, for the sleeve opening that you see there. I'm going to measure about 6 to 7 inches for that. Okay, and then I'm marking that point. I think I have 6.5 inches there. You can measure whatever it is that you want. So this is just a tutorial, so I'm just showing you how I'm doing this. So this from here to here is going to be left opened. I'm not going to sew it. Another thing you can do is to just run the stitch all around. Then when you are done, you open up this part that we are opening, and then I'll continue sewing from here all the way to the hem. So whichever one you choose to, so I can just go over to the sewing machine now and then sew from here all the way to the hem. Then when I'm done, I'm going to open up this part. Okay, so now you can see I'm sewing it with the half an inch allowance that I left, and I've decided to sew it all through. So when I get here where the chalk is, I'm going to back stitch, so that by the time I loosen it, it's not going to loosen out. So here again as well, I'm going to back stitch and then sew everything completely. So this is what it looks like now. You can see that they are together again. We just have one seam here. So now what I'm going to do is to open this seam, and then I'm going to fold it in like this, and then stitch on it. That's if you don't mind having a stitch on your fabric. But if you do mind having a stitch on your fabric, before sewing it, you can go ahead and weave the edges so that it can be neat, and then by the time you are done, you're going to use your hemming gum to iron it down, so that you're not going to have any seam. But for me, I'm just going to fold it in like this, fold in the seam allowance, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew on it again for the two sides. I hope you understand that. So I'm just folding it in like this, and then I'm stitching on it. So this is what I'm going to do for the two sides, so that the seam allowance is going to lay. I don't want the seam allowance to be flying around but when I'm done with my sleeve. So you can either use your sewing machine to stitch it down, or you use your hemming gum to do that. So I have done the first one. I'll go ahead and fold this. You can see the way I'm folding it. I'll go ahead and fold the allowance for the second one as well. I'm done sewing it now, so you can see this is the right side and this is the wrong side. So now what I want to do is to hem the sleeve, the lower part of the sleeve. I'm going to go ahead and hem it so that it can be neat before I open out the part that I want to be opened. So you carefully hem it just like I am doing. Then you get your seam ripper. So now it's neatly hemmed. So now we're going to get our seam ripper, and then we're going to open up that part. So ideally your chalk mark should still be there. So remember, we measured 1 inch here earlier, then from there we opened by 6 inches or 6.5 or 7 inches, depending on what you want to do. So the center seam here is what I'm opening. So you can see this center seam here is what I'm going to use my seam ripper to open. So you can see I'm trying to rip the seam, and I've ripped it up to the 1 inch. So for the other side as well, and if you notice, you can see that the seam that we used to close the seam allowance is still there. I'm just removing the center seam. That's the only seam I'm removing, and you're supposed to use your seam ripper for this so that it can be easy for you. So once I open it to where I want it to be, this is what it looks like. You can see that this part is opened. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead from the hem here. You can either use your needle and thread to gather it, or you can, what you just need to do is to make sure that they are gathered together like this from the hem. So you can see, so I'm going to gather the hem like this, and then I'm going to use like a band to hold it together. So you can see, so if you want more drapes, you just add more to the length of the fabric that you are using. So you can see what we have here. So you can see now I'm trying to use my hand needle to run like a loose stitch so that I can bring them all together. So you can see I'm just running a stitch at the midpoint up to where it starts, and then I'm going to bring out the needle, and then you can tie it. So now see what we have here. Everything is all together now, so you can just go ahead and then tie them before you put the loop. This is going to make it easier, and you can also put the loop all at once. It's totally up to you. I'm just trying to show different options that you have to do this. So after this, I've already cut out a loop for mine. This is it. I turned this out. So now this loop, after tying this, I'm just going to use it to cover these rough edges up so that it can be neat. So you can see how I'm placing the loop here. I'll take the loop and then run a stitch here and then cut it off. So it's as simple as that. You can see now that I have used it to cover it up. So you just cut off the excess that you have there, and then you set it. So this is what we have now. So now what I'm going to do is to close up the sleeve, and then use my whatever seam allowance that you left for the underarm area. You use that to stitch it up. And then on the upper part is a little bigger because I want to add gathers to it. So I'm going to gather it back to my actual armhole, and then I'll take it to the sewing machine so that you can see what it looks like. But for now, this is what the sleeve looks like. So this is the underarm area, and this is the upper part, so you can see. So here you are going to set it as well. I'm going to take this to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. So this is what we have. You can see the drapes that we have after gathering this part, and then this side will be opened. So here on the upper part, I gathered the armhole back to the original armhole measurement. So this is what the full sleeve looks like. If you want this longer, you just need to increase the length that you want. And here as well, you can adjust the hem depending on how big you want it to be. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.